India and China have appeared to have taken a strategic decision to transform their troubled relations. Analysts see this as a new stage for development and creating a blueprint for the future.
India-China trade was growing in a big way. There are about 25 Indian companies today which have set up base in China, so they're producing in China. So clearly relations were on the upswing, but there was a lot of suspicion, and this held back the development of that, the further development of that relationship. Mr. Vajpayee's visit has sort of, removed restrictions and increased the level of cooperation.
Preconditions for a closer engagement on the trade front already exists. So this memorandum perhaps only takes it forward, and especially the additionalities of border trade and all which will come into it. So it will only provide a further fillip to it. But the uptrend is already there, even prior to this visit.
This, according to most experts, is likely to electrify the Himalayan region by reopening the old Silk Route.
This process is just a de jure recognition of a process which is already there. Now, nobody, to my mind, is suggesting that these are got some billion-dollar potentialities we are talking about. These have to be taken as a confidence-building measure that the bitterness of the past is going to give way. They haven't recognized Sikkim, even now formally speaking, but they're on the road to recognizing it. Trade, starting with that, is just a confidence-building measure, but the basic point is people-to-people contact.
The agreement in itself will not increase or decrease exports from either country. There is a natural cooperation because both countries have advantages and they both realize that. So I think that's one point that we need to be aware of. As far as the agreement on on using the Nasala Pass to export from Sikkim, I think that's going to make a big difference.
Considering the two nations account for nearly 1/3 of global population, this seems to be significant.
The joint study group within a year will come up with a list of what are the irritants between Chinese and Indian investment and trade, and then they will make recommendations that this is what we need to do. And because the cooperation between these two countries has now been moved up in the sense that Mr. Vajpayee is the first Indian Prime Minister to go to China in the last 10 years, So given the fact that there's a lot of, that the relationship has moved up in its quality, I suspect that the recommendations of the joint study group will actually get implemented quite fast. So it will be very important.
These are all formal structures. As I told you, a certain set of events have already been set in motion. It is not an ab initio situation where now trade, hey presto, is going to increase between the two countries. It has already passed a certain inflection point. 5 billion bilateral is not a bad number last year. They didn't have any formal structures to mediate this process. Today, we are ready to engage the dragon.
India is aware of China's impressive capabilities in information and communication technologies.
It is possible that Chinese hardware manufacturers or computer hardware manufacturers will tell the Indian company, they'll tell Infosys or they'll tell TCS that, listen, you people are the best in developing software, you develop the software for us. It can happen, it probably will happen, but I said it's not as easy as we think it is.
There's an enormous potentiality if the government-to-government people resolve this issue ahead of the Olympiad, in what way India's software expertise can help the preparations of the Olympiad. And I think that's the huge business there. It's an immense business potentiality, like we are experiencing in the case of steel, for instance. It could also be for IT.
Though the two nations believe their mutual understanding in the multilateral negotiation would help protect the interest of the third world, whether it draws the two closer to better economic prospects remains to be seen.